Cloud Talk.
Let's just say it's a higher level of thinking. Let me ask you this question about your personal perspective on destiny. What's the perspective on it? Is there like this? Is there this story? Not let me not say story. Is this plan for every single person in the world, or are we in true control of what it is? Like, where's your actual opinion on something like that?
I mean, I can only really relate that to like myself, you
Yeah.
know, and just how I view my path through things. I guess in the athletic sense, since we back on the ball story, like for me coming into my path out of college, like when I graduated, I had to take the overseas route.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously going into that level and seeing the league, I'm like, it'd be very nice if I could play on that level, you know. But it didn't go that way. I know I was maybe like the fifth or sixth best person on the roster, you know, on a very, very good team. So it's not to say I might have not had opportunities that way, but representation goes into things when you get on the professional level too. But either way, just in general, the whole destiny thing, I believe, is what you make of it as far as your efforts within your given hand of cards, if that makes sense.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you only dealt what you get in front of you. You only go to the paths that happen for you. Maybe it's similar, synonymous to something else somebody else went through, but at the end of the day, like, what are you doing within that mentality wise to then continue to put yourself in position to do what you would like, you know? And for me, like, just coming away from the college thing, going into pros, my destiny was just figure it out and stretch it out as long as I could, you know, which I ended up doing 10 years professionally. 11 countries in 10 years, made a lot of money playing the game, had a great run. The decade of playing ball is like
it's
a lot more than a lot of people get to. So, you know, I hang my hat on that for sure.
Can you run through some of the countries that you've been able to be in?
I can. Czech Republic, Lithuania, Slovakia, France, Switzerland, Sweden, Italy, in Europe. I played in Austria for a little bit too. I forget what count I'm on. I know in South America, I played in Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, played in Japan for a little bit. So, yeah, a lot of places. A lot of countries.
If you had like a standout moment or a standout story when you went to one of these countries and it was like, just like a moment where you're like, yo, I can never forget, like, one of these random countries, anything crazy happened, anything like, because people have never even been to these countries, and to say that you then had to temporarily live there.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's a lot. If I'm just being honest,
give me a story from any of the countries, anything in Europe. Let's start there. Any of them, that the first one that pops into mind.
Europe, I would say most of my years were spent in France.
Okay.
Like in Europe, my biggest chunk of time in Europe was spent in France. I played there multiple years, so I would say that I would have the most like general memories from. I won my first championship in France too, so that was something I hang my hat on too. One of the
Is
best
there any
memories.
near-death experiences? Anybody getting crazy?
Yeah. There's a lot of drunk nights. A lot of nights where you out there, just you, your teammates. At that point, single man, so I'm out there like living it up, like doing what I'm saying. Like, I'm coming over here to play ball. I'm coming over here to work hard, and I'm gonna have fun too. Like, you don't get to see that. Like, a lot of people don't get to have a team fly you out and pay you to play basketball in another country. So for 100%. Me, that's like, yo, all right, where can I take this outside of just playing basketball? I want to experience things. I want to eat. I want to travel. I want to, you know, see what the women was like at that point. So it's like really just exploring it to the most. So a lot of drunk nights. A couple nights I almost got locked up. I know people that have gotten locked up overseas for a night in the tank for getting too drunk, like out there partying, that kind of stuff. Like,
when you look at these countries, I guess culturally, what was the biggest culture shock out of all of the countries that you've been in, where it was like, yo, this is not New York, this is not Delaware, this is not America?
I would say playing in Eastern Europe early was a culture shock. Seeing how they moved and seeing some of the mentalities over there, because Eastern Europe, like, I'm not gonna say everybody, but it has very, very like white roots, and that's real biz. Like, it's mainly white people, you know. It is what it is. But Eastern Europe is a little bit different. They're a little bit more like, they got a little bit more animosity towards like black people and all that. Like, I remember being in Czech Republic my second year, being in the restaurant with my teammate, and then we sitting down. We got some girls we talking to or whatever at that time. Like, just having a good time and out eating, having people staring like across the restaurant at my mans, my teammates, and just looking at him like with hate in his eyes, like literal hate, to the point where we trying to ignore it. You know, I'm seeing he tapping me like, yo, you see this nigga? Like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I see him. Like, don't worry about it. We chilling. You know what I'm saying? Blah, 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 whatever. We talking, we eating, we drinking. Yeah. So he feel the hate so much that he got to press to do like, yo, what's up? Like across the table, looks over the girl's shoulder like, yo, what's good? Like, and homeboy's like, you know what it is. Like, you know what it is. It's like,
oh, he said it.
Yeah, like, he's like, what?
Wow.
He's like, I don't like you. Why? Because you're black. You shouldn't be in here. So.
What country was this?
This is the Czech Republic.
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. So at this point, I seen racism. Like, I seen United States racism. This is what I say. Overseas is different because you really even more in their land. So, you know, especially when you start getting over
as much as I can understand, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah. You're talking to the women. They definitely don't like that. Yeah. So real hate to the point where he's like, we about to get into it. He's like heavy. Yeah. Like, so me thinking higher self at the moment, like, bro, if we get locked up over here, like, it's a different story. I don't want to see what that's like. Yo, let's get out of here right now. You know what I'm saying? And make sure we freeze. You know, at that point we breezed out, got to a safe space, and when I saw that experience, I'm like, yo, it's really different over here. Like, it's different over here. Like, and again, they know you in their kind of territory, so it's something where you got to kind of watch yourself. You know, I've gotten in fights over there. I've been in situations where I've like had to throw down, like me, I'm protect one of my teammates because he getting into it with somebody. So, you know, and you've seen the things go wrong over there too. There's been videos of viral of overseas players getting into altercations, getting jumped outside of clubs, all that kind of stuff. So you got to be careful for that over there for sure. You know, not to say that's the only thing that happens because I had a lot of great experiences, but that was the first thing that was like, oh, this is different. You know what I'm saying? Real. This is a different kind of environment. And again, I got to move on point at all times, you know, especially when you're in the spotlight, you're American. They know who the Americans on the team are, usually in the city. I mean, so you didn't
camouflage it very
exactly.
well.
I'm the biggest nigga in the town. Like, you know, I'm out here. So they know who you are. And if you're in the wrong situation, if you're not moving right, you can find yourself in some things that are going to test you a little bit, you know. But that was the biggest thing, negative side, but a lot of positive things, man. A lot of buckets, a lot of highlights, a lot of nights out. Still got a lot of friends over there too, just like that I communicate with now. So I believe it just made me a very well-rounded, like worldly individual in a sense, you know, to where I can see things from a different perspective than a lot of people.
Got you. Yeah. I think the most intriguing part of it is kind of just understanding the balance of, I guess, the mentality differences of the cultural balances of being like, yo, this is how their culture is and how it is. When you're on those flights back, coming home, and you're like, all right, I'm coming back to reality. Is it a relief? Is it, damn, I'm coming back to it? What goes on? Because you're literally like changing your entire life, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, having to deal with not being around people, not being around family, not being around friends. What's that adjustment period like?
It's refreshing in a sense. Like, that flight home every year was like, yes, like, I'm done over here for a little bit at least. Like, you get a good 3, sometimes 4 months to go back home and just do whatever you got to do. Reconnecting with people, I say, was one of the biggest things. Because when you're over there, you lose a lot of time and, like, being there for things. So when you come home, you want to just consume that in a big, big way. Just making sure you, like, when I was younger, where we at tonight? You know, where we going? Like, yo, where it's at? It's lit. We party. We doing this. We doing that. And you just try to soak up as much of that as you can because you can't bring your friends with you over there. You can't bring your family with you over there. Somewhat. But, you know, early on, not me at least, but it was really just having to come back and readjust, like definitely sleep for a little bit, and then you're right to it. Like, 1, either working out, or 2, just enjoying life to say, I got to make sure everybody that I missed out on seeing sees me now within a condensed amount of time, like 3-4 months.
Does that become like, does that like force like impulsive behavior almost to an extent? A lot of it. Because you feel like you're missing out.
Yeah, a lot of trips that I'm just like, yo, where we at? I'm there. Like, yo, we flying here. Like, yeah, I'm doing it because I'm not going to get to do this again for like another 8 or 9 months as soon as I jump back on that plane. Yeah. It's a lot of impulsiveness, a lot of just doing stuff just to do it. doing stuff just to be like around, doing things just to make sure I feel like I'm connecting with where I had to leave for a long time.
Are you familiar with the theory of FOMO?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on FOMO in that?
I've experienced it like 100%.
Walk me through FOMO.
I'm seeing it like and remember as I'm going, this is 2009-ish or whatever. So as I'm going over there, all the social medias is taking off. Facebook is elevating, Twitter is a thing, Instagram a few years after that. So I'm seeing everybody back home, doing things, having fun, and over there, like it's really, if you don't have like a foundation, like a group over there with you, which I have the fortunate opportunity to have later when my daughter and now my wife was over there. Like early on, it's just you in basically your apartment looking at four walls, trying to find movies, trying to find what you're gonna eat tonight, and then you just got your phone and the internet just to say, like you have friends on the team, but everybody's over there. Like they all got roots back home for the most part. Like you're good to catch a teammate that would be helpful to you. Like, yo, let's go eat tonight. Like stuff like that. And I've had that, but at the end of the day, you're going back to the crib and it's just like, all right, what do I do now until I fall asleep? Like who I'm going to talk to back home, what I'm going to watch tonight. PlayStation, a lot of PlayStation. A lot of games. So it's like a lot of isolated time where you got to figure out what you want to do with it. So I'm looking on the internet, I'm seeing people, I'm like, oh, like I wish I was back home right now. Like Thanksgiving, holidays, all that stuff. Like sometimes I had to be over there. So if I'm missing out on it, I really have the fear of missing out that what I'm seeing back home, I'm not getting to experience. So
have you, and this might be a dark question, but have you missed out on anything? Like, I mean, maybe birthdays, but then there's also like funeral. Have you ever had anything of that? So you've had to at one point pick the career over that, or you just couldn't? What was like one of those moments where
I missed out on going to my grandmother's funeral? Big time, like big, heavy, like was going through insomnia and all that around that whole situation. Like my Tony, his mom, my grandmother, she passed, and I was overseas for that. I just got to France like days when it happened, so I couldn't just leave and go back and go to the funeral because I just got there. Like I'm trying to set myself up and establish myself with a new team, and like I couldn't go back home. I could have, but it might have cost me the gig that I had at that point.
Understood.
And then that. Other things, birthdays, my daughter's birthday.
Hold on, to dig in again, not to make it dark, but a funeral goes on. How do you balance? Again, I want to dig in on like the mental, the levels of it all, and what is it mentally? How do you go? What I'm focusing on right now is not going to be distracted maybe by something. It's not going to be deterred. Like that's what I really want to understand the mental, so that the people can understand these are the things that I need to gain or to sharpen so that I can become adequate enough if a similar, there's someone out here who's an entrepreneur, who's a small business owner, who might have a career, there could be any balance, and they start a new job and then their aunt dies, and then you could give them the information on how to perceive that. That's where I'm at with it.
I would say you got to make sure that you understand that if you're going to choose something that to you in the moment is more important than, not to say more important, that's a bad way to put it.
Okay.
But if you're going to choose something that you have to prioritize over what you're missing out on, make it worth it. Like, make it worth it. That's how I got through. I mean, sleepless nights, like I said, I went through like real insomnia over that. It just so happened that my daughter was conceived like around that time too. So it was a crazy, crazy time of just like mentally just being in a different place. My grandmother dies, and like I think it was 4 days later, I found out I was having a daughter. So like all that coming at the same time like created a thing like, okay, well, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to miss the funeral. If I'm going to be here and be away from my girlfriend at that point to turn fiance to turn wife, then I got to make sure this shit is worth it. I got to make sure I'm really dedicated to doing the best with what I have right in front of me, because if it's not, then you could look back at it and be like, should you have even really
got it? So when you're in that, so for anybody in here from an advice perspective, when you're in that position, for you, you were able to look at it, deal with it and conceptualize it when you were like, I'm going to now up my efforts in what I'm doing so that even if the spirit or as per a moment or a celebration or anything gets compared to this, it can be like, yo, I upped it so much that where it was.
That on the back end, it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you took, going back to the situation with my grandma, I took time away from that, but through having conversations with my family, like, because my pops went down and my sister Jasmine went down, a lot of people went down there, and they understood why I couldn't be there, so they helped me stay connected to say, yo, I know you over there doing what you got to do. Don't take it too hard on yourself that you can't be here, but do the best while you out there to make sure that you don't feel like this opportunity was, a waste,
Correct.
So for me, it's all about making sure that your perspective is if you're going to prioritize something over something else, then make it worth it, which is kind of what ended up leading me away from the game a few years later, So that, in a sense, after being through it for 10 years, it was just like, all right, I did a lot, played for a long time, but after a certain time, like just a lot of things that transpired throughout my career to kind of like stunt the trajectory that I felt I was supposed to be on at that point, and I knew I was supposed to be, and not felt I should have, documented things I know got in the way. For me, it was just like I can't continue to prioritize this over things that may be more important right now. I had a daughter, I had a girlfriend at that point, and she had taken a ride with me for a few years.
Yeah.
So when I went back to my final year, it was a lot of self-reflection. It was like, am I going to keep doing this? Or am I going to go home and try to create roots for myself in another way? Because, even if it's the most uncomfortable thing to do at that point, it might be the thing that I need right now to separate from the feelings that I was having at the moment, which was very, very like low self-worth in a sense.
So to peel back, if you had to get to the point of where, because obviously if basketball was your go-to at that point, that was everything, that was your focus, that was the drive, that was everything that was kind of making it all happen. With that being said, what's that reflection moment? Like I had called it a mirror moment on some other dialogues I've had, where you have to look in the mirror and kind of almost come to terms with where you're at. What was that last conversation truly like when you were like, basketball, I thank you? Because I think metaphorically, for someone who might be pursuing music, or who might be pursuing art, or who might be pursuing like the hunt for something, metaphorically, that is of what your basketball is.
Yeah.
How did you put, because that's the entrepreneurial dream for you. You're an independent worker, an independent contractor at that point. For these teams, you're an independent contractor. What was that mirror moment like for you when you said, it's official? What's that last convo when you said, I'm ready to dig in back home? The
last convo, I'll probably say, and in all honesty, like this is kind of like, and it's why in a sense, I feel so closely related to the situation, because it kind of was where I was at the time while all of that was going on.
Gotcha.
Nipsey, big Nipsey fan.
Wow.
Big time Nipsey fan from 2006, 7, 8, 9, like early.
Yeah.
So seeing his growth, seeing his elevation, like, and the messages that he portrayed to the world, and just the path, the maturation of an individual who's going through something and grinding to get to something, to finally hitting that peak. Like just all the little gems and stuff that he would drop over time, like would stick with me, which is why he was one of my favorite artists. And 2019, my last year overseas, passes. April Fool's Day, I still remember it like it's nothing. Like I thought it was a joke at first. You know what I'm saying? So around that time, I was having those conversations with myself, like, yo, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue to do this? Do I want to go home, start something for myself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
So when that whole situation went, obviously big viral moment, everybody, the community, the outpouring of love, the outpouring of messaging, and just watching things that he would say in interviews, and just I probably went to a point where like 2 weeks straight after he died, I wouldn't listen to nothing but Nipsey. Just just soaking all of that in for myself, and just letting the spiritual energy, like I'm like, nah, this can't die. Like this is a one-of-one individual. So how do I continue to let that flow? So listen to a lot of the music. Like I was just in a point where like, yo, sometimes it ain't gonna be the most comfortable situation right away, but taking that from the lessons that he put into his music, into his interviews, into everything that he did, gave me the confidence to be like, all right, I'm going to figure it out. Because I'd rather go home and figure something out than feel like this going forward, So for me, it's like, bet on yourself. Go home, get to it, figure out what's going to make sense for you, figure out how you do it, and then at the end of the day, it's going to turn into something positive for you going forward. And that was really, really the conversation I was having myself through that time.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's I've had a lot of conversations with him.
Mm-hmm. I remember. I remember watching you with him and low key not hating, but being like, damn, like I wish I was there that night. Maybe I could soak up some of that energy, like all that. So,
it's unbelievable. So I say this, right? One of the most amazing, and I've said it many times, but this jewel that Nipsey Hussle said to me one time, and he just said it, and I've repeated it so many times, but it's so fire to me. He said, Punch, he said, cuz treat life like a racing car video game. Mm-hmm. And I said, like, okay, all right.
Expound upon that, please.
Help me, please.
That's not a one sentence.
And he said, sometimes you just got to be in the game to acquire those moments of extra time. Because, in racing car games, you drive to get I just bought 20 more seconds to finish the race. Yeah. And that's what the thing is with him, where it was like, yo, I need to just do something to get more time to finish the race. Yeah. That's when he was like, once you look at it like that, then the finish line isn't as far. If everything that you're doing is to get more time, then you're not concerned where the finish line is at. Right. You're just, how can you keep this machine moving? Because sometimes we look at the finish line so much, and if someone gets there first, then we feel like we lost. Yeah. But if our goal is not the finish line just yet,
it's the next lap.
Yeah, you understand already. You understand if the goal is now to expand time for the next lap, we're going to be here for longer. Yeah. And life's not a race, it's a marathon. And then he ended it with the good jewel. Yeah. So Nipsey, many, many conversations with him. I always joke, and every time I always lighten it up, man. I've been in a bunch of Nipsey videos getting my video girl on. You get what I'm saying? So that's my man. Very, very, very missed.
God rest his soul, man.
A couple times. Yeah. Very, very amazing guy. I mean, you're home. Mm-hmm. You went through all of this. You played professional ball. Mm-hmm. Family is now becoming the leading fuel for you.
100%.
What about fatherhood changes things for you? You were an entrepreneur, a contractor, a hired contractor of the team,
independent contractor,
right? Independent contractor. You were this creative. Mm-hmm. You wanted to do this. You were this person that forced yourself to be disciplined, and now you're a father. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest game change for you during that process?
Well, it was different because it kind of transitioned, and some of the stories that I kind of touched on with me leading away from the game, it was all intertwined with that. Because when she came overseas, going back to just making the situation worth it the next year, like I played so well at the team and basically said they want to sign me for next year before I even went home, which was a thing to secure like for myself, because I knew my girlfriend at that point was pregnant, and we creating a life together, we creating a family together. So the plan was, when I go back to this team next year, we bringing everybody over.
Understood.
So when this was 2016 when my daughter was born, I was in France playing. So when I came home, I got to come home just for her birth for like 4 days. It was like a 4-day window, craziest window of days.
Craziest.
And it just so happened that the delivery happened, and then I got to spend a few days with her. So from there, she came overseas with me for the next year, next year and a half, almost 2 years pretty much. But at that point, it's just seeing a little baby human just grow up in front of me while I'm still pursuing everything I did athletically. And that was the year I ended up winning my first championship. So talk about creating a different kind of motivation for yourself to dominate, to go out there and provide, and really I'm the y'all stay at home. I'm gonna go out here and do what I gotta do to make sure that we are winning, playing successful. I'm playing well, and I'm gonna dominate everything, because now I'm bringing everything back home to the family.
If you had to hone in on the 3 bullet points, with nothing else but the 3 bullet points that changed the most drastically in your life, with becoming a father, what would those 3 things in your personality that changed?
Then, and even more so now that I've been home, time management.
Time management.
Learning empathy. And then just being able to think long term about actions and like how my place in the world is going to affect the people around me.
Got you. So let's peel into empathy a little bit. You have a daughter.
Yeah.
Dig in a little bit, because everybody always says that when dad gets the little girl, it melts you down, man.
Yeah.
And
I knew I was having a girl from I knew as soon as I just knew.
You knew.
I feel like I might have manifested in a sense, but I knew. So when she came, it's like really just learning how to connect with an individual that is this size, to then start having her learn and really just mature in front of you, you know? So really having to be self-reflective of like the things that I do and the things that I put around me, how they can be perceived, and then also just being able to create a strong foundation for her to grow up under is like the biggest thing, you know? So those switches, those 3 bullet points basically are just to say that I'm trying to, one, do my best for myself, to be able to do my best for the people like around me. So having a little girl is different, you know. I'm not the most sensitive guy. I'm not the most, you know, like cuddly guy. So having to like adapt to all that as she's growing is something I've started to learn as 5, almost 6 years of her life now, how I support those things in her life.
But why Cloud Talk?
It's such a unique
Let's
thing.
just say it's a higher level of thinking.